I'm Isyander.
And I'm Koda.
And today we're going over the fact that I can never put anything in the Imperium against anything outside the Imperium. Because by another ridiculous sweep, both the Eldar have been sent into the Shadow Realm, and it's a Knight episode today, baby. The options left are the Imperial Navy, the Eldar, and the Dark Eldar. Space Elves and Frowny Space Elves, for those of you that don't know.
No, it was Space Elves and BDSM Space Elves.
Yep, and you vote by sounding off in the comments. I don't have any control. It's a democracy over here. So you guys sound off in the comments or in the reviews for our audio listeners, because you can do that too, and I still see them and they still count. So you can vote either for or against anything. We are also on the march to 250k. That is the next goal we have hit, because the machine god is a fickle thing that only respects stupendously large numbers. So if you would like to help us date this video like we have dated so many others in the past, I'm serious. If you go watch some of the even not that old episodes, there are like ones where we're at 10k.
I remember it was just like it was yesterday. We were going for this thing, and look, it's this thing right here. Oh my god.
Exactly. We move as a legion. I know it will be done in no time. So thank you as always. If you also want a bonus episode every week, twice as much of what you already want, you can head on over to patreon.com/Isyander and Koda, where you get that second episode. You get access to the community Discord, monthly streams, Q&As, and that feel-good feeling that comes from just doing a good deed every month, you know? So you can help us keep the lights on in here and get more of what you already love by heading on over to patreon.com. And now let's get into the most honorable bunch in the Imperium, at least, the Knights, because, and we're gonna use a different device because you guys seem to like it when you get the perspective of what they seem like to other people. So we are going to.
I still love the Tyranid one. That one
God.
gives me nightmares.
No, people loved that. You loved it. So it's coming back. And for the purposes of this device, you are a medieval peasant. Poverty.
Are you being served Baja Blast?
No. Poverty-stricken is an understatement. Poverty did not strike you. It beat the brakes off you and left you on the side of the road to figure it out. It's bad. You have nothing to your name save for the dirt beneath your feet and that house that sometimes stops water from getting in. Not always.
And that house is also probably 90% dirt.
Yo, yeah, no, life blows, and for everyone you know, it's the same thing. But this is normal. That's just how things are. He died of dysentery. Okay, it just happens. It's rough, but you make what you can out of life. Same thing that peasants used to. Then, Q stage left, a roving band of barbarians arrives.
Classic.
Of course. And they hit your town for what little it's worth, and then decide to settle on the outskirts and just use you for menial labor to try and build up some form of empire. So things went from bad to worse, baby.
Achievement get you are now human cattle.
Yeah. They settle, and slowly but surely your life gets worse and worse and worse. And as every parent does, or at least every parent should, you want better for your kids than you had. So in a desperate gamble, you send your kid out, because either they will be able to find a new life in a town these guys haven't gotten to yet, or long shot, maybe get help. Bare minimum, they're at least not going to grow up into this, however far this is going to go, because they clearly are intending on making it go very far. And that's it. That's the last you see of little Timmy. He's gone.
Bye.
Whoop, that's it.
See you, kiddo.
Yep. And then months and months of this brutality continue. You are squarely under their thumbs. And, dude, they are competent with swords. You have a plow to your name. And you're malnourished. It's just not... It's not
a fair fight.
It's not even close. They will batter you with their bare hands. Then, one day, you hear a sound like the air itself has ignited. You look and see this crimson streak falling impossibly fast for just a moment before it makes impact, and it sounds like God's fist has descended down. The dust clears, and it's not a meteor. It's what looks to be like a heavily shielded castle. And before you can fully drink in what exactly this is, every battlement turns on and just starts firing on the barbarians immediately. And as the battlements turn on, you see one after another from the top to the bottom of the castle, banners just unfurling over and over with royal seals on each and every one of them. As I kid you not, triumphant music starts blasting from somewhere inside the castle. It's so loud it kind of hurts, honestly. You can't miss it. And then, as if it couldn't get worse for those barbarians, every door blows off and you see these massive mechanical knights, perfectly clean, bringing their full force down on them with absolutely no mercy. It does not seem like there's much content, but it is a giant mech against your average person. So
there's not much you can do against big hunk of metal.
Yeah, and it completely just rips apart any camp that they thought they were building, all while each knight is proclaiming the true and rightful masters of this land have returned. Your prayers have been answered, and you have been saved thanks to us. And stuff like that. Every single one is their own hype man. I'm talking like bow down and rejoice levels.
If only I could get that custom voice in Titanfall 2.
And on top of one of the mechs, kind of sitting back from everything, it's still fighting, but it's more making a show of it than anything else. You see your kid having a day of a time on top of it, waving and smiling at you. And that's what the knights are like to your average person. They are so hilariously overkill and committed to the bit. It's so much fun. And we'll get to it, because I'm not joking there. The only thing that's even vaguely canon in that sentence was the kid riding on top of it. That everything else there they will do. Like they full bore will like, say your prayers and brush your teeth, kids, and someday you will wind up in a mech like me. Says the noble, born into stupendous levels of wealth and trained to do this from birth. Like, it's so much fun. I love them. But before we get into all of that, we have to just very quickly make a distinction, and that is Knights versus Titans. It's a really simple mistake to make, especially if you just see the art and you're vaguely new to 40k, because they're both giant robots.
They're big robots, and they're shaped kind of similar. The main difference is the scale of it, because if you don't look at the art closely, you'll see Titans and Knights and you'll go, oh, well, they're about the same size. But then you look at the Knight art closer and you realize that's a mountain it's towering over. And then you'll go, that's a different league. That's a huge...
The Titans are the de facto giant robots in 40k. So that's the main difference between these two. They require teams, staff. It's a whole thing, right? The Knights, it's a one-on-one kind of a situation. And they actually usually work in teams. Like they usually, like the Knights, adventure in parties. Who'd have thought? And it's kind of like, it kind of operates like the Pacific Rim Jaegers, where they move very fluidly with, but it's only one person instead of two.
Yeah.
They move very fluidly with their guy. They are a thing from way back in 40k, with the original purpose being to be shunted out into the void of space with these ships in long marches to the far, far reaches of space. And because it's 40k, the reaches of space were never happy to see them. So while they were going about this whole space age kind of like race to the moon vibes, honestly, is what it feels like, they had to send these mechs with them to protect them. Because if it wasn't the flora being hostile, it was the fauna. And if it wasn't any of that, well, as it turns out, a giant chainsaw that can cut through tanks is good at clearing forestry.
Yeah.
So honestly, a lot of the time, you would see them being used for agricultural purposes. Just, there's this massive boulder, or, we need a tunnel, and it just
punch.
Like, it literally just punch a hole through the mountain. And then, boom, tunnel. Like, it stabilize it and just
get at it.
It's one of my favorite things about like the mech genre of things is just like, oh yeah, this is a big piece of military equipment, but like swords to plowshare style, oh, that's now just like pushing a big like farm bucket.
Yeah, and that's what they were totally used for. I love it so much. A big part of why they were able to succeed at their original job is because they were also shunted out with these things called STCs.
Yeah.
They're always important. They come up almost every episode, and they are demons unto themselves. It is the actual collective knowledge of mankind as their birthright. It's actually like pretty philanthropic, and I dig them a lot. Like, humanity back in the day was no slouch.
I mean, they say it's the dark age of technology, but like,
it's really poorly named because it's
pretty technologically advanced. All things, I mean, it's in the name. But.
Yeah, they were obscene boons, and because of that, they were able to protect these areas as they slowly took over world after world after world. Now, as with anything that large, dangerous, and expensive, just like in real life, you have to be really careful about who you let to pilot it. You can't just let anybody fly the best jets we have. You have to push them to the edge. They have to be the best of the best, and they have to be constantly abreast with everything. They have to be good at their gigs. And it's no different in 40K. In fact, because it's 40K, it's cranked up several notches.
Which is significant. One of the last couple shorts, if you've been keeping up with the shorts, had one of a clip from G-Force tests. And when I found that clip, that was a rabbit hole and a half. Those things are tough.
Yeah, I know.
I saw one where they put Jeremy Clarkson in one of those G-Force tests.
Jeremy Clarkson, that's an image I need to see. I'll need to see that after this.
He wasn't. Pardon my French. He wasn't when it came to that.
Yeah.
I saw a clip of somebody they were trying to knock out by hitting him with 9 Gs, and they had to hit him with like 5 or 6 rounds of that before he finally got knocked out.
That's a caliber person piloting a mech, probably. I'll be honest. That's Timothy.
That's him.
On top of that, you also have to allow the pilot and the mech to move as one. You really don't want input lag on anything that... You can't give it a 360 controller. That's just not going to work. It's good enough for drones, not good enough for mechs, okay?
Yeah.
So, to do this, as one would guess, stuff gets crammed into your head. It's 40K.
It's
40K. If there's no open brain surgery, are we even in the 41st millennium?
Well, even in a lot of mech stuff, usually they'll cram something in your head. Think of the Neuralinks from Titanfall 2.
Yeah, exactly. The pro to this, it's actually really similar to that, is you're able to move with grace that only the Eldar, the space elves, can match. Yeah. Because you see these things in art, and you assume it moves like a massive robot would move,
no, they sprint.
Yeah, no. It can move and snap aim as needed with ease. They are so like if you see 2 of them fighting in melee combat, it looks like knights of old fighting. Where if you want like a quick frame of reference, just imagine your average NFL player in full plate armor. Anything they could do in that, this can probably do. Because let's be real, they have massive swaths of armor that are feet thick. They're not limber. They're not going to be hitting any yoga poses anytime soon.
But they're mobile.
They can break into a concerningly brisk jog. They're not going to break the Olympic record, but it's still concerning. It's still concerning how quickly that thing moves. Short jumps. I've seen a trailer where one tackles something, which, that's so cool. They are not as immobile as their art would make them seem. It's really fun.
I mean, that's what I thought when I first saw him. I was like, oh, that's a lumbering, big, heavy piece of machinery. And then it starts sprinting around like a Titan from Titanfall 2. And I'm like...
They can break onto a jog. Honestly, they move with a little bit more grace than the ones in Titanfall. I'll be honest.
Yeah, because the Titanfall 2 mechs are pretty like... They're not slow and lumbery, but they move like machines. You can tell.
These ones you can tell. Oh, that's a person linked to
That's a person moving that.
Exactly. The con to all of this, though, is open brain surgery. And on top of that, your personality is irrevocably tweaked. Because the process of melding is unpleasant.
Well, there's a machine in your head now. That'd do something.
Yes and no. Kind of. anyone who walks past, because what happens is, like, you turn 18, you've passed everything you needed to do. Congratulations, you're going to be a knight. They lock you in this room, and you meld with this thing called the throne, right? And anyone who walks past it thinks you're either having the best time of your life or an actual exorcism is happening. Because it's screaming, howling, gnashing of the teeth, different voices uttering swear words that could be completely outdated at this time. It is torturous. It is arduous as you as a human attempt to imprint your very being onto the machine, while the machine imprints back the being of everyone else who succeeded before you.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it's really metal stuff, actually.
That's really cool, actually.
Right? The best case scenario is you will be permanently, vaguely off your rocker. Any childlike wonder you may have had before is replaced with this kind of regality that comes from it. It's the authority and the responsibility of everyone who came before, basically just shunted onto you.
That also makes sense why they'd be saying random stuff like, oh, yes, brush your teeth. Because the dude who cycled out like 20 cycles ago, who used his machine 20 guys ago, was a dentist. Mm-hmm. Very passionate about brushing your teeth. And now I have to shout that, I guess. Or
he just had incredible veneers and he wanted to keep them up and coming. Like, yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And and also, funny enough, it's not that you just get, their duties, their diligence. You don't just get that. You can get their petty grievances too. You can get their pet peeves. So, like, if there was a guy who really, really, really did not like his vegetables and you were fine with them before, you may find yourself suddenly a fairly picky eater out of nowhere.
It's like asparagus, spinach, no, not the asparagus one. The broccoli, spinach, Brussels sprouts piss gene, where things will taste like piss to you.
Yeah.
If you have that specific gene.
Suddenly, even if it tasted fine before, it tastes terrible, and you have to cope with that now. All of this was put in place because it makes you far less likely to go rogue if all of your successors' successes are put into your head and you have this sense of fealty and honor. Like, no, my father did this, my father before him, and they're now all in my head. Like, I don't leave this town. It's not what we do. It's not who I am, frankly, though who you are is a different person now. But
you're a bit odd now.
Mm-hmm. However, let's be real here for a moment. Me and you, right? We're all adults. It's a paper-thin excuse to have knights in space. But, like, come on, it's knights in space. Come on. Because if you were to ask any child what would make a knight cooler, your answer is either riding a dinosaur or giant mech. And the kid's not wrong, because these things are so cool. 40K is just a grown-up version. It's that same nerve we all had as a kid where you'd line up all your toys for a war, but just taken to its extreme. It's fantastic, and it knows it, and I love the fact that they felt the need to justify that, even though they really didn't have to for me. I'm so simple, baby. Just tell me they were knights in space. We're good.
It's knights in space.
Yeah. And so because of that kind of imprinting, it's slowly gotten a bit more extreme over time as it compounds on itself. So what started as this odd heroic thing, like, oh, my father was chosen, he was the hero of the town, and then, now I have that imprinted on me, and it's like, well, no, I must be the hero of the town, so on and so forth. Slowly, royal houses kind of started forming around these knights, and it became a birthright thing where it's like, oh, my firstborn son will inherit this. If he somehow dies beforehand, second, third, so on and so forth. Like, have you seen that chart that shows what will happen when any given member of the royal family dies? And it's vaguely complex, but not really once you get the gist of it.
It's that?
It's that, actually.
So these are just like medieval feudal houses of old.
Oh, yeah. No, the knights from birth, well, their sons, are prepared for the gig. That's all you were set to do, right? It's everything must be prim. It has to be proper. Fork must be in the left hand, tines pointed downwards, knife in the right hand, no scraping, and everything must be graceful and silent. Point, always show up your precise. After all, people are eternally judging you at any given moment, whether you are aware of it or not. So manners maketh the man. Yes, Mom, I love you dearly, and I still remember most of it. my childhood aside, they have that taken so much further, it's ridiculous. They move the way old nobility does, with tons and tons of pomp and circumstance and titles, and it just goes on and on and on. By the way, if you think I'm fibbing about that, table etiquette is a real thing. My grandma knows how to insult a whole dish without saying a word. Like, I'm just so on it. There's a whole language to it that I vaguely have a grasp of. I could put it together now, but like, yeah, it's a thing. It's a whole thing. And I'm kind of shocked you never had to go through that. I'm surprised you were never shipped off to that for like a summer. Just a me thing?
My parents were raised in the TV dinner era.
Fair enough. That'll do it. Fair enough. That'll do it. Wow. Yeah, that'll work.
The 70s, baby.
Yeah. Okay. My favorite example of how just procedural these guys can be is when you fight one in Shuda's Blood and Teeth. It's an orc game. That's actually how it's pronounced. And the following cutscene plays that I have to put in here in its entirety because it is perfect and the only way to show the specific personality matrix that being a knight entails. So we are going to be watching this together.
Soggy neck. That's a big Tim boy.
Oh, just you wait.
I love orc speak.
Attention, Orc! You face Lord Horik Canorum, son of High King Valeric Canorum, High Prince of House Canorum, Master of the Blade of Gaia, Keeper of the Gates of Loralo, Wielder of the Caloric Flame, Bringer of Hope, Herald of the Holy Order of the Adamantine Lance, the Paladin of Koto, Slayer of the Lion of Essa, the Triumphant, the Light of Stars, the Eradicator.
He's giving Idi Amin a run for his money.
Oh god! Oh no! Every night gives Idi Amin the run for their money. It's their thing. They have 101 titles, and they honor each other so much. It's fantastic, and it's the best way their just nature has been shown in pretty much anything. Because yeah, they would totally sit there and read their full title to any. Because at the time, that knight doesn't know that's the thing leading the current war, or even it's vaguely important.
That's the protagonist.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that's the
He
protagonist.
doesn't know that, which means every orc he's seen today, he's been, I am High Lord Horik Canorum, the whole thing. And he's that confident in it because he said it and then beat the brakes off of them every time. They're so much fun.
I mean, he's in so much heavy armor, you know.
Yeah,
Who wouldn't
and it's
think they're
perfectly
safe?
in sync with them. So, like, yeah, it's pretty cool. To be fair, he gets folded like a deck chair. He's not the protagonist of this game. Knight fans really hate that, but
That's a shame. Let's get a Titanfall 2 style Knight game, please.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. It's an orc game. If you want a Knight game, go ask the Titanfall guys. Go write them.
Please. I need
Yeah.
Titanfall 3.
Oh god, yeah. But that is the caliber of person you're dealing with in a mech that can move almost perfectly, fluidly. And it's why, when everything went to hell, Night Worlds were fine-ish, for the most part. The Imperium basically blew up due to a series of unfortunate events. What else is new? It's constantly doing that. And they went from this unified front that terrified pretty much everyone in the galaxy, except for maybe the Egyptian Terminators. That's it. Anything else was fair game. They descended into just a collection of feudal worlds that could not rub two sticks together.
These really are knights in space.
No, that was no. That was the rest of them.
Oh,
That was the rest of them. Night worlds went for your average Imperial planet. They went from being able to harvest stars with ease to keeping corn upright's really hard, man. I've been trying for weeks here. Like it's not great for everyone, except for the Night Worlds. They still receded. They still went all full blown feudal. Like I wasn't joking. You are a medieval peasant if you're on a Night World, but the knights are nobility first and foremost. They're born protectors who've trained from birth and have basically all the characteristics of those who came before just jammed into their heads at the same time. So when things went to hell, it totally makes sense that they would grab the reins and take command. Now, they're still people. They're not the Emperor's sons, who are superhuman deities that can accomplish anything they set their minds to. They're still regular people, which is why things backslid a lot. But critically, they just wound up self-sufficient in a backwards way, if that makes sense. Which, life sucks in 40k, so it totally makes sense that you'd have the medieval variant of suck somewhere. Just, it's enforced by a massive mech. Because, yeah, you can't behead the rich if the rich are in that. No, like, really, I'm sorry. They can go around gallivanting saying, let them eat cake. What are you going to do about it?
Guillotine the mech?
Yeah, no, there's no guillotine big enough.
You can't even guillotine off its big mech toes. They're made of metal.
Yeah, so all of that put together means that when a certain fellow who looks an awful lot like the protagonist from Hatred in gold armor decided to go about crusading, he was able to actually re-find a bunch of these territories held together only by the force of their knight houses. That was pretty much it. And it's, to this day, in fact, Night Worlds will still be found, and it's a whole thing. It's, oh, thank God we found these guys. Oh, this is great. It's a fully self-sufficient world. Please, come in.
Please, come back.
Yeah, no, if you can find one, you get paid pretty handsomely. Usually, they are also, because, they're very chivalrous, they're very honor-bound. They can tell when their authority begins and ends. And they also know the Emperor's authority. His title is a Master of Mankind, dude.
It kind of outclasses everybody.
Yeah, so they pretty much automatically like, yeah, okay, this tracks. Moving on. Though it is fun fact, like I said, you get paid really well for finding one of these, which is why the rogue traders were the first ones to find them, and to this day are still the ones who regularly find them. Because, come on, the D&D party finding the night party, it just makes sense. Usually, in the beginning, they will either swear a vow to serve Earth or the Mechanicus. Because, come on, they're the guys who worship machinery. They're the guys who even know how to get this stuff to run and maintain it. It's a match made in heaven that they would be working together. However, if they do swear to the Mechanicus, they kind of lose a lot of their panache.
How do you mean?
Like, all that pomp and circumstance you saw kind of melts away when they work for the Mechanicus. Because they just become massive units to be used, basically. And their worlds just become, like, worlds to feed Mechanicus worlds.
This is no longer, Knights of old. It is just like, new machine just dropped.
Pretty much. So it's kind of so-so. Occasionally, they'll even get stripped from their homeworlds and get stationed with the massive robots of 40k, the Titans. Because 30 to 40-foot mechs are not the biggest things the Imperium can field. To give you a sense of scale, Knights on the tabletop are like 8-ish inches. Your average model is like an inch tall, give or take, if you're counting the stands, customs, yada, yada, yada. You get the vibe, right? If you wanted a size-accurate tabletop Titan, you'd be fielding something the size of a small child. No, I'm not joking. If you want to play with Titans, you could literally take your toddler, put them on the table with a little cardboard sign that reads, Titan. And it would be there would be debates as to whether it's size accurate.
All right, little Timmy, stand right here. Don't move until I get the ruler.
Yeah, they're completely...
All right, you have a movement length of like, what was that? 1.5 feet? 1 foot there, 1 foot there. Thank you, little Timmy.
Yeah.
Can you fire a shot that direction with your little hand pistol? And he's got a little Nerf gun in his hand. Pooh.
Of course.
Knocks over an entire guard regiment.
Titans are so much fun. They literally have the nickname of the God Engines. I need an episode on these guys so badly. This is where the Knights come back in, though, because as you can imagine, these things are massive. And go for the ankles. I mean, come on. It's a very. There's a reason tanks don't have legs today.
What is this, an AT-AT?
I mean, if you tie its legs together. All I'm saying is you can't trip a tank. You can certainly trip a Titan. And they're really hard to fix. So the Knights come back in because good luck doing that when they're guarding its feet. And as they guard these massive Titans, there's also tinier Titans guarding them too. Because, I'll be honest, if you don't have a Titan fighting on your side and a Titan appears, you've lost. You've lost. Just leave. There's nothing you can do. They level anything set before them. So a lot of the time these Knights will just be pilfered because you're not going to have guards reinforcing a Titan. The Titan can barely see. It's like an ant. They'll get stepped on by mistake. At least I can see, and I can at least see the Knight and dodge it and not step on it. So that is a big duty that a lot of them just get pilfered for, which is...
You're on Titan duty.
It's kind of lame because it reduces the cool Knights to just like Guardians for the biggest mechs, but also the biggest mechs are really cool, so they get away with it. Regardless, I need like an actual scale, because the scale for Titans is something that's constantly debated.
I think I've seen them. I think I've seen like somebody not kit bash, but like print out a model for, and it's huge.
Yeah, but like Titan fanboys will always say it's either not huge enough or too huge. It's only fairly recently their size has been hard confirmed, and because it's the Imperium, there's always a bigger variant that used to exist that we can no longer build, sadly. So, like, come on.
Oh, I see. They do that.
Yeah.
The same thing happens in BattleTech, because a lot of that is just like, oh yeah, we haven't been able to build any of these mechs for a long time. Let's salvage the old ones, and then, oh my god, the like people in the past built huge mechs. What the hell?
Oh.
Why can't we do this?
Oh, the Imperium's obscenely guilty for that. I would love a size accurate one. I really would. But I also fully recognize, again, the current ones you can play, toddler sized. If you wanted a size accurate one, you'd probably be talking like a 10-year-old on the table. Like, I'll be real. Titans are kind of funky. It makes no sense. But also, like, does it need to?
It'd be funny.
It's also worth noting that the blueprint for all Knights comes from a house that serves the Mechanicus. They were actually the first to consider using them, and they did it so well that they just ported all that information into the STCs and then pew, 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 shot them all over the place. So all Knights technically come from the Mechanicus. Which, I mean, come on, it makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah. And that also brings us to something I would be horrifically remiss if I didn't mention, and that is their heraldry. Because these guys know the assignment, and they have branding that would make the Fortune 500 jealous. Every house has preset heraldry and a scheme that looks amazing. There is a reason Knight iconography is still relevant in the collective psyche to this day, and that's because they had an aesthetic. They have a vibe, and they stick to it. They don't change it. It's actually a discussion I have with my friends really often, because I'm really blessed to be surrounded by people who are just incredibly artistic. And before, I used to be the type of person who wanted a game to be as realistic as it can get. However many pores you can program onto that face, I want them there, because it's not a real game unless I can tell that's a human being you modeled. Like, give me, what are we at? Like 4080 now? Is that what the current one is?
4090.
4090, yeah. Give me a 4090 or a PS5 or whatever the modern Xbox is. I was always a PlayStation kid anyway. And give me a world that is just intricate and every little detail is done, which is cool. And it is amazing. But only Rockstar can get away with that. Let's be real.
Like, I like Red Dead too, but like
I'll be honest.
I've not seen that kind of like insanity out of any other dev company.
CD Projekt maybe. But again, think about the budget they get. Well. Yeah. If you don't have an unlimited budget or an unlimited amount of employees you can work to make that happen, a lot of the time you'd be served better with a hard, cohesive art style and direction.
That's why Dishonored is still a great game to this day.
Oh God, yeah.
Because I don't
looks
care.
stunning.
I don't care that it doesn't look like,
It's a little low res.
GTA 6 that looks near real life, right?
Kinda, yeah.
It looks like an oil painting. Everything is an oil painting in Dishonored, and honestly,
Yeah.
there's a couple like bronze statues that I've seen all over the place with like the hyper angular kind of look to them, and it's just like those look like Dishonored 2 models. And then I realized that's why Dishonored 2 models look the way they do. They look like chiseled brass statues.
There was a vision for it. Like, that's why I love Hi-Fi Rush. So I love Dave the Diver. They have a purpose. We wanted the game to look like this. We didn't just make the game to the most pinpoint, precise, accurate way we could do it. Like, you can model that brick falling off the building in Battlefield. And that's so cool. But why?
Why?
Like, why don't we put more time into, like, you can make the game look a certain way and then make the game fun. But regardless,
I get why some games go for the hyper-realistic art style, and it makes sense for them.
Rockstar
Battlefield
gets away with
1 is about the horrors of war, and they do it pretty well. Red Dead Redemption is you are an outlaw out on the Wild West range as it's actively dying, and you know what? You really get that environment from everything they've done with it. But, like, I'm gonna be honest. If Dead Cells or Risk of Rain 2 decided we're going to have a hyper-realistic art style, I'd stop playing the game.
it would look awful.
I'd stop playing the game.
And so this is a fact that Knights have internalized. They have an aesthetic, and it makes them so much fun to paint. Because you can come up with your own Knight house. You can give them any heraldry you want. It doesn't matter how intricate it is, and it could be canon. Because if a knight returned home from battle and there's a little bit of mud covering up their heraldry, this must be cleaned immediately. This was my father's insignia and my father's fathers before him. I cannot go into battle without this being mended immediately.
Gets the royal power washer.
Yeah, no, it's a whole, like, if their paint is chipped, they are the guys who would go get it fixed before the next fight. Like, I can't show up like this. I'm judged by how I look. I have to look great.
I mean, I can't judge. He's me.
Yeah, pretty much. Which is really funny when you consider these guys were very prim, very proper. Their armor's always, there's a lot of iconography on there. There's very intricate paint jobs, and they will grab your unit and crush it to death and then throw it at something else. And it's like, well, that's one way you could do it. They also have these things that I mentioned in the very beginning called drop keeps, which are small castles dropped from orbit.
Well, I mean, I've already seen drop churches, so it's not too out of the ordinary.
Have
but
drop keeps, yeah. The moment it lands, every battlement is automated, and it just fires up, and the doors blow open as just titans start pouring out from everywhere. And as they do, they cannon have speakers that play either triumphant music or hail their victories. This is in a book. I want to credit the book, but I can't for the life of me remember it right now. But it's a hard. There's a scene where there's a newish knight just sitting and waiting in there as he can hear the battlements fire up and the music, and he's like, "Oh yeah, oh it's my time."
It's hype music.
They are playing the Creed soundtrack, and they're about to see what I can do with that.
Listen. TikTok kids of today will listen to a whole lot of funk as somebody says something, the most vapid thing you've ever heard. Yeah. These guys will get ready to prepare for battle with just like people chanting how many victories they won.
Or a funk track. They're not above that either. Like, if it's hype, it's hype.
You think drop keeps would be playing funk?
They'd either be playing funk or football highlight reel music. Like, Can't Be Touched would be being blasted out of that.
Imagine you just watch a swarm of titans like pop out of this drop keep, and you just hear like drift funk playing.
Yeah, no, it would literally be something you'd see in a football highlight reel or something you would see in like an edit. It is my triumphant music. This is my moment. This is my moment. It's me. I am here to save the day. I love them so much. And that's without me mentioning that. You can imagine they're fairly large. They're not very good at scouting. So do you know how these drop keeps scout?
How do they scout?
As the mechs leave the front doors, behind them, hundreds of cherubs stream out.
Of course they do.
And those function as both scouts and heraldry.
Of course they do.
They're so over the top. I love it so much. How can you be mad at that?
No, this is just such a silly universe. I love 40k for this.
And I need a dropkeep model. But I also realize how unconscionably large that would be, because it needs to be able to hold like 5+ knights, all about 8 inches tall. Yeah, it'd probably be the size of this table.
It would, in fact, be the size of this table.
Yeah, there's a scale.
For context, this table is about 5'5".
Yeah, it's no wonder these guys aren't questioned whenever they do anything. Because they're just having a day of it. This is their world. You just happen to be living in it. They are the protagonists. I'm sorry. They would totally, I don't care if this has not happened. I looked, I couldn't find any examples, but you cannot debate me that they totally would not like give a kid uppies on their giant metal arms. Like, come on. You cannot tell me they wouldn't like climb aboard, little child, and like have them like, come on. They totally would. Everything about their personality reeks about it. They have parades, for God's sake. Like,
yeah.
It's, again.
Climb aboard, young squire,
Yeah.
and then like, just lift.
Yeah, and again, they would definitely tell you, say your prayers, brush your teeth, you'll wind up like me. They totally would do this stuff, because it's so much fun.
Remember, an apple a day makes the doctor go away.
Yeah, like I could so see a Titan like holding a class, and this is how I defend the capital, as he just lays into a Tyrannid. They totally would do that. They totally would do that. I mean, these guys, if you do not think they're cool yet, which I don't know how you don't, for your average medieval peasant, they don't have stories of space marines coming to save them. They don't even have stories of like any heroes descending from the sky. They just have stories of these regular people like you or me, right? Who have underwent training for years and were fit to pilot these massive machines. In these machines, they have kept us safe while everything went to hell and back. These knights have done everything from slay massive beasts as they arrive to run across continents to deliver medicine. They are the heroes of folklore. They are legends, and they just tower over everything silently. Like they're kind of, they can get affluenza and go a little crazy. But to your average Joe, these guys are,
These are the sci-fi equivalent to the Knights of the Round Table.
They are Superman.
Actually, that's a really cool way of doing that. It's like very similar to the Scythe, Iron Harvest, that universe with the weird diesel punk thing going on, where it's just like you've got this really, really late 1800s farmer peasant vibe going on, but then the huge, massive mechs that are towering off. I really love that genre, or that vibe of like low tech, really, really, really low tech, and then high tech happening in the background. It's why I get it. Horizon Zero Dawn isn't all that good. It's very video gamey. But I do really, really, really love the absolute low tech of all of these like post-apocalyptic tribal societies.
It's a spear.
And the really, really high tech mechanical beasts that they're hunting. I really love that juxtaposition of high tech, low tech. And these guys do that.
Oh, no, yeah. These are machines that could destroy entire cities, and they've seen it happen. They know they can, and instead of doing that, these guys volunteer to join crusades light years away. Like, you must understand, to your average peasant, there's nothing kinder than a knight. Like, you see this guy agree and go off into the stars to fight with machines even larger, things even more legendary than they, and when they're done, they will come back. Like, dude, it's a really
I love that
it's
vibe.
so easy to see just why they're so exalted, despite the fact that this is 40k. Nothing is without its mud. They are the reason things are as bad as they are somewhat, because when things went to hell, the nobles hoarded all the technology and the wealth, because you can't stop a guy in a mech suit. but it was for your own protection, trust me. They also sometimes lose it when they get their mechs, because it's kind of like how a prince will be trained all their lives to be king, and then the moment he's king, he can now do whatever he wants. He can behead everyone.
Now he goes mad with that power.
So sometimes that does happen. Rare, but it's possible. Because again, the mind melding does kind of prevent that in a way. They also, I'll be honest, like they'll put on like shows. They'll like joust each other in these massive mechs, like have blow for blow fights on worlds that can't afford to repair these machines. So like they're a bit wasteful.
They're very let them eat cake vibe.
Oh yeah, like they will have banquet halls with food. They'll take like 3 bites. That's enough, and the rest will go away.
Oh,
While people are starving outside the keep.
let them eat cake.
Yeah, so it's 40K. Nothing's nice, but these guys are still personal favorite of mine, and I really, really enjoy them. On the tabletop, they're actually, believe it or not, one of the cheapest armies you can build.
Yeah, because you buy all of like 7 of them and you're good.
2.
2?
You can get away with 2 if I remember correctly.
2. Dose.
Yeah, and now to be fair, expensive is relative, because, you know, in 40K you say it's cheap and everyone goes, yeah, but then you tell anyone, I bought this thing for $100. You go, what?
It's cheap relative to the hobby.
Exactly. But again, if
Like, oh, I bought cheap car parts. Oh, I bought cheap computer parts.
cheap car parts, there's no such thing. I promise you that.
Cheap relative to the hobby.
As long as it makes you happy and you're not destitute because of it, go for it. That's my exact philosophy. If you can eat, pay your bills, and then do this, who can judge you?
It's your hobby.
It's none of your business.
It make you happy.
This is between me and my wallet. Stay out of it, okay? So yeah, you can field 2 of them, and I think you could probably play a game with 2. I think the largest is, I don't play tabletop, so it could be wrong. 6? I think that the largest is 6 you could field before you get to like the ridiculous other games that are possible.
Yeah.
And you know, that's fairly cheap in the grand scheme of things, and they're kind of complicated to paint because there's so many little things, but also kind of not, because they're huge swaths of space sometimes.
I've seen people paint the tiny miniatures, and they've got the like the full like you know that this is a really really weird and deep cut, but you know the Santa Claus movies?
Which ones? Do you know how vague
The one
that
where
is?
Tim Allen has Santa like fall off of his roof and then die, and then he puts on the coat and becomes Santa himself because of a weird exit clause that's just like in the fine
for God's sake.
print.
Is the movie called Exit Clause?
No, the movie is called The Santa Claus.
Never seen it.
Okay, like legal clause, The Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And the main plot point is the Santa Claus that you have to anyway. There's this device.
You're about to give us a plot synopsis. Go on.
There's this device that the head elf uses, and it's just like 20 magnifying glasses stacked in front of each other. Mm-hmm. And
the Spy Kids thing. You could have just said that.
no, it's more excessive than the Spy Kids thing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I've seen people have to pull out like that kind of setup to paint some of the minis.
Yeah, really good painters can accomplish things that absolutely amaze me.
To be fair, with my horrible eyes, I would need something
Probably.
like that.
Probably. Honestly, at night wouldn't be a bad place for you to start. Maybe.
It's so big. How can I not paint within the lines?
No matter what you choose, though, guard players will always weep as they buy their 2000th model and 100th dice set. Because, God, the guard's painful. I don't know how they manage.
I've heard of people going to tournaments where you need to toss the model if it dies. Mm-hmm. Guardsmen players must be weeping.
And also, I'll be honest, on the tabletop, from what I've heard, streets are saying the knights aren't very fun to go against because they're fairly strong. So it kind of...
Well, you're playing the versus boss mode when you're playing against knights.
No, you're not.
Really?
There are scarier things than knights.
Okay, never mind.
There's a reason I said they're cosplaying as the hero. They're not. There are scarier things. They're just a little strong on the tabletop from what I was able to gather. And it kind of feels icky when you have spent a lot of time painting, like, again, you're a guardsman player. You've painted your 10th millionth unit to field it, and then that guy's painted 4, and he's pushing you in. And especially when they have like death grip mechanics where they can just grab something and start squeezing, and it's that thing's strength versus whatever it's squeezing. Like a Space Marine is fine, kind of, because Space Marines are stupid strong. But your Guardsman in that thing's grip,
it's squish.
It's I don't think it's a contest.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Or even if it's like your tank, it's still not great. So yeah, not pleasant. But hey, if you like them, you like them. C'est la vie. Who am I to judge? A lot of people honestly buy models, paint them, don't play. Just like there's a lot of people who read books. Don't paint models, don't play. Or actually, there's people who read books, don't paint models, but will watch gameplay. And like that's the thing I love most about Warhammer. There's so many different.
You can enjoy it.
Enjoy it in almost any way. You could just play the video games, which they've been getting better. They've been getting better for a little bit there. They weren't, but they've gotten a lot better. You could purely be a book enjoyer, book enthusiast.
I'll be honest. I will be honest. I don't exactly have the budget for a full army yet, and I have like for a long time been considering just like buying a handful of models just as like little display things for either here or like right at my desk, because my desk will cycle between infinitely clean or there's a bunch of kitschy bullcrap all over it.
I need to look around because I've always wanted a Titan. I really have always wanted a Titan, but I lack the skill to paint it. Let me just start there. The Titans get intricate. Some of them have churches on their shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's intricate like basilicas going on. It's a whole thing. And B, I really need to find out if they would be like toddler size, which is a problem, or 5 feet tall, which is also possible.
Another problem.
And so, there's some digging that needs to be done before that happens. And also, it'd probably be stupendously expensive. So we'll see if that ever comes to fruition.
Yeah.
On that note, I do have to turn it to you. What did you think of the Knights of Old?
I mean, I pretty much have been voicing my thoughts this whole time. I really like them, especially again that low tech, high tech vibe.
Yeah, the dichotomy.
The dichotomy between the two. It's great. I have always loved that. Horizon Zero. I haven't played Horizon for Hidden West yet, or Hidden.
It's a PlayStation exclusive.
Whatever it is. No, it's on the PC, but I just haven't cared enough to buy it yet.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Zero Dawn, though, just because of that juxtaposition between the low-tech and the high-tech. I really love Iron Harvest because of the like really low-tech, really high-tech. It's really, really cool. It gives the same vibe of like a post-apocalyptic like random planet out in the middle of nowhere, but you've got like this one thing. I think my favorite, but I will really always love mech genres that dive into like frontier worlds where you've just got like this is just a farming society, but then you've got like, well, that's the one like a plow mech, and then here's the one that we use to crop dust the fields. Like I know people hate Valkyrie in Apex Legends, but I really like the vibe that she has going on in her cutscene, where she's got her dad's old Viper mech in the barn, but outside it's just like that's a scene out of like a Western film. That it's just nothing but agriculture.
Apex gets that a lot, actually. Like a lot of their maps would be a really high tech thing, and then like farms to the left.
Yeah, it's great. I love that juxtaposition. It's awesome.
And these guys bring it in spades, pretty much more than anyone else. And on that note, we will be wrapping this episode up without a fracas because it's a longer one.
It is a longer one.
Because there's a lot for the knights, and I didn't even cover it all, baby. Because there's still individual knight houses, there's individual like knight legends, there's individual like patterns that have different weapons. There is one of my favorite stories of the knights is a knight separated from a knight pilot separated from his mech, and he was being tortured by the Iron Warriors because it's the Iron Warriors, and hearing his distress, his machine gained temporary sentience and fought to him.
He said, Protocol 3, protect the pilot.
It did that. And then they busted their way out. There's other ones of a mech. There's a mech version of Saint Celestine running around. Like
Oh, what?
Only spiting the Tau, by the way.
Yo.
There's a mech version of Saint Celestine that's just spitting in the Tao's eye.
You didn't tell me about this?
Oh no, this will all have to be in a different episode.
That better be the Patreon episode.
There's a lot of stuff I had to cut because God, there's a lot to the Knights because they're really beloved by everyone, and Games Workshop keeps giving us stuff, so I can never be mad. However, we will have to wrap it here because otherwise it'd be 2 hours. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and thank you as always for being you.